This is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we sample around the world the amazing humans that exist in the land of human design, gene keys, astrology, metaphysics, all the things. In this series, we are showcasing guests in the human design community and bringing recognition to them in the work that they do in the human design space, and also get to know them a little better and how they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today's beautiful conversation is with Kip Winsett, a 4/6 self-projected projector and, using my Australianism, an all-round legend. Kip is a licensed human design analyst and offers custom-tailored intensive one-on-one training and certification through a mentorship approach. Kip designs his mentorship based on your chart, your goals, and your current level of understanding, allowing you to take your knowledge and expertise to the next level. And what a wealth of wisdom you are, dear Kip. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Annie. I appreciate that. I'm very much looking forward to see what blossoms from today. You never know.
We want to hear about you and maybe a little bit of a backstory. Kip, you were one of the first people I sought out when I decided to get a reading, like an actual, I wanted a reading done, and I sought you out. So you and I have got like a few years back and forth where, you know, you've done my reading for me. So I feel very grateful for that.
Well, I'm glad you do, because I've been at this for a very long time and I still love it. Yeah. I mean, really a long time. 1999 is when I had my first reading, Chetan Parkin, and it just so blew my mind. That was in November of 1999, and in January of 2000, I was a licensed analyst.
You went for it.
I went for it totally. I mean, totally went for it. I had to travel halfway across the country and rent a house and rent cars and airplanes and pay for the training and, meals out, that whole bit. And that was a lot of money for me back then. Yeah. That was a lot of money. And everything about it was just so exciting. It's so exciting. Then I studied with Chetan. After that, I studied one day a month, every Sunday, for 3 years, like 300 hours. And that was face-to-face because he only lived a couple miles from me.
Wow.
And he's a very nice man. He really is. He is like a warm, cool breeze. Warm, cool, you like that. But, he's just refreshing. And he's very genuine. And he's not, I don't know how to describe raw exactly, but he's not that. He doesn't sound that way at all. Chetan is very, very sweet.
And what led you to go down this path, Kip? What was this moment in time where you were like, what is this human design? Can you share that with us?
Oh, well, okay, I'll tell you exactly how I came to it, although that really, if I'm honest, goes way back a long, long time, and maybe I'll share that story too. But I woke up with my back hurting one day, which is not unusual for me. I hurt my back pretty badly once in Hawaii, and so I had problems with it. And I had a fairly decent chiropractor who was a pretty nice guy and sort of a semi-hippie. And I was a full-on hippie when I was young, full-on hardcore to the max. And I was waiting for him one day, and he came in the room and he said, before we get started, I want to tell you, I just came across something that I think you're really going to enjoy. He already knew that, I was a hippie and interested in certain kinds of things, including the I Ching. He said, you're going to love this stuff called human design. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah, why don't we, when we're done here, I have another client, then let's go and get lunch together, and I'll give you a little brief intro to this stuff. Oh, okay, that sounds good. So we did, and he did. And it was maybe 20 minutes because he was really new at it. And, I'm used to, or I studied astrology for a while, and it never really rocked my boat. It was too, I don't know, it was too generic. And this guy, who'd only been studying HD for a very short time, was telling me things about myself where I'm going, oh, come on, how could he possibly know this? Not possible, just isn't possible. And he sent me to, He said, you should go get a reading from somebody who's good at this. And he suggested Shaitan. I think Shaitan was charging about $150, $200.
It's quite a
This was
quite a bit back then.
yes, absolutely. And particularly for me, I was a stay-at-home dad. So we had a 4-year-old then, and it was a big chunk of money to lay out, and kind of hoping. But I was so impressed that I went ahead and I did that with him. And boy, he really blew me away. He really, really, he's very good at, even then, he was really good at it. I don't know that I'm as gifted as he is, but I think I do give people more information. So, trading off one thing for another there. He's really good. I guess he still is. I haven't talked to him in a while, but yeah. And the thing is, I want to say 34 years of experience with all kinds of stuff that led me to that moment. It wasn't a spur of the moment thing, really. I'm an expert in the I Ching, had been for years. I used it twice a day, every day without fail. I had some really great mentors throughout my life. I mean, really good ones: psychology, religion, religious studies, religion, the oracular tradition, and just Swami Satchidananda. We used to call him Swami Sack of Bananas. He thought that was pretty funny, fortunately. But yeah, I spent a lot of time with a lot of very turned on people who were really into self-actualization. And I didn't have a term for it back then, but I wanted to be myself. I mean, and that's kind of a funny thing to say, because as an SPP, I am. That's about all I am. I am myself. I manifest myself. I speak myself.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't need invitations for that. I just go for it. And that seems to be right for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was anything that ends in an ism, I probably studied. Sufism.
Yeah. And I love this about you, Kip, because there's never a day or never a week where you're not posting something that I can just sink my teeth into and read. And lately you've been sharing a lot of those past stories of yourself, which have just been fascinating.
Good.
When you found this, you've got this reading done. He's blown you. As you said, you're a stay-at-home dad, so you had your child. Did you then have to do your wife, your child? How did that look in your family?
What do you mean?
Did you do their charts as well, or did you find out?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. Yes, I did. I did everybody in my family. But it's odd. I almost never look at them, at their charts. I almost never look at mine. I have because I'm self-projected, I suppose. I trust that what I do is right. So I don't, I don't follow the transits because I don't care. Whatever happens is going to happen. I'm going to deal with it the way I'm designed to deal with it. And I trust that fully. Have my whole life, even though I got an awful lot of trouble as a kid for that. But I think a lot of times, one of the reasons I share so much about myself is that people have a sense of human design. At least this is what I hear and read, what I get from it, is that it's very much a head thing. They can tell you all about their environment. It doesn't matter at all what your environment is. It just doesn't matter. They can tell you about, oh, I had this, which was followed by this, which was followed by that. But that's not even the way your body works. It doesn't work like that. It's not sequential. It's immediate. Everything happens all at once. All of it. Everything in your chart is going on all at the same time, all at once. And much faster than your mind can keep up with. You can reflect on it later and describe it, but that's just mind play. Yeah. So I try to share the experiences that I've had, because then I'm not analyzing it. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just saying, here's what I did. Here's what happened to me. Here's what I did. And hoping that, more people would get on board with this idea that you truly can. I mean, it took me a long time to become convinced, but I am convinced that you can trust your design.
Yeah.
Utterly convinced of it. And I think you are too.
I feel it's a very common theme. And, when people find this out, myself included, you kind of just go, oh my gosh. And this label and this wording, it just overwhelms you. And you're like, I suddenly am this thing. But the more you kind of lean into it and the more you experience your past and make amends with that and look in and out in your timeline, you go, I've always been doing this innately. When I listen into my body and my being, I've always been this way. But I think somewhere, as you're saying, somewhere along the way, we get caught in this head thing, this clunky,
Yes,
big
yeah.
clunker up here. And it pulls us off our little native track.
Well, it's once the mind's got a little toehold, I'm making all these cool facial expressions that you can't see.
I can't see.
Maybe I'll put it on. I'm feeling a little more comfortable.
I'll
I
make
don't
them
like it.
for
I'll
you.
turn it on. Oops, let's see. Where did that go? Start video. Okay, can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I went like this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what I was talking about now. That happens every once in a while.
The clunky mind we were referring to.
Right. Once it gets you a little bit, it's got you.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Is just a little tiny bit, a stray thought. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but to me, it's like we have these little fish. They're swimming around in our brain, and they're like bait.
Yeah.
And it'll be some weird thought. I have internal conversations. I'm sure we all do. And I've managed to tamp the volume down considerably, getting my mind out of there. But still, once in a while, man, there's a fish. That little piece of bait looks so tasty. And I go, okay, I'm just gonna taste it. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll just give it a nibble, and then I'll be done with it.
Is that those rabbit holes that you really go down?
Oh, yeah, except it's a very unpleasant rabbit hole. It's where I'm having this major disagreement with somebody that's nowhere around.
Oh yeah, this massive story.
Yeah, just replaying stuff and getting caught up. And sometimes it'll take me days before I can let go of it because I was stupid and took the bait. Well, maybe it was okay to take the bait. Who knows?
I've always been so impressed by the power of the mind. Like, past self, Annie would be like berating. And then sometimes when we use your analogy there of the fish, it's just like, and you come out of that and you're like, wow, that's actually very impressive. That is, I wonder if you could teach AI that, in this day and age, but it's like the power of our mind is so powerful and impressive. What it can do.
Yeah, it's really something. It's really, I love my mind. I really do. I've only got 3 centers defined, mind and the throat and the self. And of the centers that I don't have defined, 2 of them are undefined and the other 4 are completely open. And actually there's 26 gates in human design in the chart, 26 places for think. Well, I have 8 of them are in my throat and 5 of them are in my self center. So half of everything is in those 2 centers. It's really kind of funny when I've seen my astrological chart and everything is on one side. The other side is completely empty. That's kind of that same way. So a lot of these things, I always knew, but I didn't have the language. I didn't have the, I don't know how you were raised. I was raised really strictly. My mom was very, very strict. Messing up was dangerous in my household, and so, and they want you to be a certain way. Just can't, I don't know what it is about so many parents. They just they just don't like what they got, I guess, or maybe not. Maybe that's the kind of assigning them.
I think it's hard when they're raised like that too, because they don't know any better.
I don't think that's an excuse, see, because that's not like I knew better. I got raised in that crap.
Yeah.
And I got out of it and it wasn't that hard to do. Now, maybe that's my good fortune, but maybe it was the time though. In the 50s, New Age stuff wasn't happening, and very little in psychoanalysis back then was kind of Freudian. It wasn't very humanistic, and yeah, maybe it was harder for them. I don't know, but I do know this: there were really good parents out there. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. Hard to say what's good, what's bad. There's an ancient Sufi teaching story about that you probably heard. Where this guy's son gets called into has to join the army. Everybody goes, "Oh, poor Abdul. Oh, that's so sorry. Well, we really, really hate to, I'm sorry he's got to go." And so he falls off the horse and breaks his leg. And he comes back to the village and says, "Oh, what happened?" "Well, I fell off the horse. I broke my leg." "Oh, you're so lucky. You got out of the service. You didn't have to go to war." I don't know. I remember all a little bit, step after step like that, right? You probably heard that. Who knows?
Heard that
Really,
story for ages. I have to read that one again. That is a good one. Thank you for
yeah.
I was I think I was raised quite strictly too. Very Catholic strict, but
Oh,
I was also raised by a reflector and a projector. So I kind of now
mhm.
understand that even though it was strict, it was also very slow. I often joke now, looking back at my life, going, I was the problem because I wanted them to come on, hurry up. Why is everything so slow? Why are you still in bed at 8:30? Like, what is going on?
I love to sleep in. My mom was raised Catholic, but she wasn't Catholic. She was a rebel. I come from Irish stock and from Munster, and that's an area in Ireland where it's surrounded by peat bogs and marshes, and very difficult to get to. So most of the outlaws and rebels in moved there, lived in that part of the country because the British Army couldn't reach them.
Oh,
Can you hear my phone ringing?
yeah.
Yeah, well, it'll stop. I don't know what'll happen if I'm
It's a
not
very
going to
nice
slide to
ringtone.
answer. Well, thank you very much. I
It's a
spent
very
years
happy.
developing that sound.
It's a very chipper sound.
Very chipper. It's a chipper kipper.
The chipper kipper. Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you grew up, I think you told me, did you say on like approximately the northeast coast of Australia? Up
Yes.
by the Gold Coast, up in that
Yeah.
area? Yeah.
Yep.
I've heard a lot of good things about that area.
Yeah.
Surfing haven, and nice weather. And you don't have those little killer jellyfish there, do you?
No, that's up north. The Irukandji is up north. Yeah. They're coming down a little bit,
Don't want to go.
now.
Oh, no. That'd be kind of scary. Were you a beach girl?
Yes. Yes, I think a lot of Australians are quite beachy because we're always present. But I actually grew up in my younger years on a farm, on a dairy farm.
Oh.
So my parents were dairy farmers, and so I spent a good 5 to 6 years of my early life completely barefoot and free. It wasn't until I had to come into the city that I think I started misbehaving because it was like I was around so many other people.
Right. Well, it's hard to get in too much trouble on a farm, right?
Yeah, it was good. They were good memories. I still yearn for it. Like I have land now. So I need to sort of have space. Which
did they have you
sense.
milk the cows every day in the morning?
I don't now, but we did when I was younger. Yeah. Yeah.
When you were a kid, you had to do that?
Yeah. I used to actually, I know it sounds disgusting, like I look back, but I used to literally go and drink from them. I used to pick the ticks off their backs and squish them. And now I'm a bit more of a princess,
Princess Annie.
Princess Annie. If there's a cockroach in the house, I'm like, yeah.
Oh, my wife was like that when we lived in Hawaii. She lived a pretty sheltered life. She grew up in La Jolla, fairly well-to-do town in Southern California. And I don't know if there were cockroaches there. I certainly didn't ever see any. But so we were living on Oahu, but we were living very close to the beach. And every night she'd go into the kitchen and she'd open up a cabinet door. And the cockroaches there, they're, oh, I don't know, an inch and a half long. They're huge,
Yeah.
giant, and would fly right out at her. And she'd scream, and I'd laugh. It was not very nice, but I couldn't help it. It looked so funny. Every night, every night. I had friends in junior high school that milked their cows. Their hands were so strong.
Yeah.
God, did you have those kind of hands?
I don't remember. I was young. I probably didn't do it very well, but I could imagine because it's quite the technique to be able to, you've kind of got to, it's like a periostalsis with the fingers, how it's got to move down. So each finger is controlled. The dying art, because they have the machines now that they just stick on their others.
When you look back on those years as a child, how was it to be a reflector? How was that for you as a child?
I think those first years, I was only even thinking about this last week. I was really taking myself right back to my earliest memory. And
good.
I think I was roughly around 4. So I think that's quite good to remember back there with, and not a memory that somebody's put into your head. It's actually my memory. And I know, because we were talking about this, that somebody had said something to me and I didn't believe them because I'm thinking, why are you lying to me? That's not true. So, and we were sort of like elaborating on that because as a reflector, it's like we learn distrust quite early because you can feel and sense it. But I think when I was allowed to be free in that environment, I was just so happy. I was like literally like, sound of music swinging around in the mountains, dancing around and free as a bird. But the younger years when I did sort of start school and come into more of a communal, bigger school and stuff, I know that I have these memories of just a push and pull effect of my life, wanting to sort of like fit into places. So that's very present in my body of how I was trying to kind of be. The chameleon started very early of just going, oh, okay, well, these girls or these people are into this, so that must mean I need to be too. So there was a lack of identity. Well, I mean, I've got a completely open G, so that's been present for little girl Annie for a long time. So I think that was the early years of my life of not miserable, but just I really remember that push and pull through, the ebbs and flows of life. There's always just this being washed around a little bit. Yeah.
My earliest memories go back to about age 4 too. I learned how to whistle I walked down the street one day and some guy was out painting a garage door and he was whistling. And I was amazed. 4 years old, and I walked in and said, how do you do that? And he taught me how to whistle. I was quite happy about that. I mean, I have some earlier memories, but that's one that really does. It's always stuck out to me because it was so filled with happiness, with wonder, with amazement,
Yeah.
And gosh, it was truly great. Did you find that in junior high school, which is usually kind of where a lot of the difficulties set in schooling, was that particularly hard?
Yes,
to be a reflector in?
I believe so. And it was, there's a girl who was in my class and I'm yet to find, I was only, again, thinking about this yesterday. It's like I need to reach out to her, find her, because her and I shared the same birthday. So I'm fairly certain she would have been a reflector too. But her and I were complete opposites, and we even, in a way, repelled each other. We didn't like each other for unknown reasons. We never spoke. We didn't like each other. But again, it was looking into that. It was very much trying to sort of move within social groups. And I got on with everybody, but I never really kind of fitted into any one group. So I kind of like to do my own thing. But there was a couple of teachers who just hated me. Like that's how it felt.
Wow.
They just, I would do really well. Actually, I did a science experiment because I wrote this amazing essay this one year. I think I was in ninth grade, so it would have been about
Mm-hmm.
13.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd spent considerable amount of time on it. And this teacher who really did not like me, she graded me as a C. And I'm like, there is no way. I've poured my heart and soul into this, and I know it's good. And from that point onwards, I've reflected back to her, and we were just like this, because I was like, stuff you, I'm trying, and you somehow just don't like me. The following year, I changed schools, and I submitted the same assignment, exactly the same assignment, and I got an
Mm-hmm.
A. So something was there with her that I just must have reflected something back to her that she didn't like. But that was always a constant, I guess, in junior school, of just some days people would be kind of pissed off at you, and other days you would be like welcomed with open arms. So again, that push and pull has always kind of been there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's having so many open centers. I kind of consider myself, much more similar to being a reflector than a lot of other people might be. And I noticed it was really hard to predict what I was going to get from somebody at any given time. One of the things that I find in human design is that typically people with their undefined centers, they always consider what the effect somebody who has that center defined, what effect that actually has on them. Oh my God, I'm all up on my emotional trip, or my root trip, or whatever. One of the things I did a reading for somebody. She's fully defined. Well, she's got 7 of the 9 centers.
Yeah.
That's a lot of definition. And so I thought, I got to come at this from a different angle. I'm going to talk about the effect that what happens when she's around somebody who's got that center undefined. Now suddenly they get it defined. What does that do to her? Because it's amplified,
Yeah.
and so I'm experiencing the emotion of just, for conversational sake, you've got this big emotional trip going on, and I'm experiencing it, and I'm reflecting it back to you, and you're so used to your experience of it that you don't really pay much attention to the fact that suddenly you just got amped up too. This is all happening in an energy field. People used to ask me, well, they still do. They didn't understand. Well, what does it mean if that this center is undefined? Does it mean I don't have anything there? Well, of course not. Couldn't possibly mean that. What is it? Well, what does it mean? What does it mean? Well, it just means that you have your home state in that place is just less energy. That's all. So I would use the numbers. Well, let's say you're undefined in your emotional center. Say you're about an energy level of 3. Somebody who's got a defined energy level of 10. The two have become together. Now it's a energy level combined of 13. Well, for you, the undefined person, that's a huge step up. But the other person's taking a step up too.
Yeah.
And they're not just getting off scot-free. And you can look at a chart that way, and also look at, well, let's say they've got the channel, the second line profile.
Yeah.
Waiting for the call. What call? Oh, well, if you're 240, waiting for the opportunistic call, something that's an opportunity. But maybe they've got the gate 59 as well, the intimacy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that's being reflected back at them. Oh, you're an opportunity for me to be intimate. Maybe not, though.
Maybe.
It's really so much fun for me to think about all these permutations that traditional human design doesn't really talk about.
Yeah.
That's because I haven't had much to do for the last 20 years, 23 years, except think about human design. And that's not entirely true, but certainly the vast majority of my time is gone to that. It's so fascinating. Just amazing to me. That was funny when you told me about your science paper. When I was in 9th grade, I had a science teacher, Mr. Grant, and he didn't dislike me, but he came up and kicked me in the butt one time because I was doing something he didn't like, and I never felt close to him. He's a big guy, Scots-looking, red hair, big frame. You know, I was a 4'7" kid, and I did an experiment inside a psychological experiment to see if boys and girls would saw abstract symbols in the same way. So I had a drawing of something that was just two circles and a straight line. Well, that could be roller skates, that could be a wagon. I figured the girls would all say roller skates and the boys would all say wagon. I had another one that was, you know, like a vertical line and then an arrow shape at the top. Boys are going to call it an arrow and girls are going to call it a Christmas tree. That was my theory. So I had, I don't know, a half dozen of these. And I went around to all the classrooms and I had to ask them, so what's your gender? I don't think we use that word back then. We say, what's your sex?
Yeah.
And they had to put that on the paper and then tell me what they saw. And I went and correlated it all. And I went, my God, they pretty much see everything the same way here. Wow, there's a surprise. I mean, that was kind of when I got a glimmer into the fact that it doesn't matter if you're wearing a dress or pants, you're pretty much seeing the world the same way. We can test this with these abstract symbols. Well, we had a science fair every year, and there was a young guy. His dad was, I don't know what he did, but he helped his kid hook up some frog legs to an electrical current. He'd flip a switch and the frog legs would twitch. And so at my school, he got the grand prize in his category was medicine. Well, being what I was doing was medicine too, psychology, but we went to the San Diego County Science Fair. Schools from all over the county. I'll be damned. I actually won first place in the medical division and beat this kid out. And when I went back to my school, Mr. Grant was suddenly my good buddy.
Oh, right. Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, hey, I must have taught this guy something because he followed the scientific method. You know, I wrote the whole experiment up. It's, I wish, in a way, I wish I knew back then what I know now, although I couldn't have processed it, I'm sure. You know, I should be glad that, you know, take my lumps the way they came, but it would have been, it wouldn't have taken so long, you know what I mean, to get home, right? It would have been, it would have happened much faster. And I've always been in a hurry, so much so that my watches have always run, well, when they had, not with batteries now, but the old spring wind-up ones, always ran 10 minutes fast. Didn't matter. I put one on and be correct, and a day later it's 10 minutes fast. Never more than that. We're quite similar in some of these odd sort of ways where these sorts of adventures that I'll never know what it is to be a reflector. I kind of, in a way, envy you a bit because you can experience all the other types. I can experience every one of them except being the reflector. And that's my mother-in-law was a reflector. You know, I don't really know you as a person particularly well at all. I don't really know anything about your life or anything. So I'm going to just describe this person, all right? So my mother-in-law was born, I guess, in, I don't know, 1920s, 30s, somewhere around in there. Her father was from the Philippines, and her mother was from Norway. And the two of them met in New York City around the turn of the century, you know, early 1900s. And they loved ballroom dancing. They fell in love and they got married, and then they moved out to California. And California back then was a terrible state if you happened to be Asian or Black or Hispanic. Very nasty. So she wrote this book about herself. She titled it Almost American. I almost made it, but not quite. And it was true. She grew up very sheltered. Her parents wouldn't let her go in the ocean. They were afraid she'd drown. So they never got her swimming lessons. She couldn't ride a bike, afraid she'd fall off and get hurt. And she was busting out. She just wanted to do all these things. Her parents wouldn't let her. Well, when she got married and she had kids, and she then started to become her own person. And she was God, this woman, well, her husband died and she got married a second time, and she went for it then, full on. She loved to weave. She loved to do pottery. She wrote a children's book as well as a book about herself. She was a really good painter. We have 2 or 3 paintings of hers hanging in our house. I come from an art family as well. I got more of my mother-in-law's works than my dad's.
Yeah.
And she was just sweet, lovable. Everybody loved her. I mean, ever since I knew her, because she was so together. She somewhere along the line, she got it. She couldn't talk about it maybe, but she got it for herself, and she realized, oh, the classic thing about not knowing where you're going. God, she drove 200 miles into Canada one time before she realized she'd even left the state. She was so far off from where she was going.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a regular thing in her life. She'd get dents in her car, and we said, "Why don't you get that fixed, Mom?" Oh no, that reminds me of that time I took your son. We went to the Navajo Indian Reservation and taught art for summer, and he hit it with a rock accidentally. I'll never get that fixed. Just this, of course, she had the cross of Eden. So everything for her was, I mean, I didn't live with her, so maybe her husband didn't, but he was not in love with her. So I think she was pretty good there too. She had so many friends, and a lot of them didn't know each other. I did a reading for her, and it's funny, she never asked me a question. She never talked about it, but I heard kind of via the grapevine that she was pretty impressed. And she was, I called her mom, always called her mom, and she didn't have a problem with that, which I thought was pretty nice. She was a really open. She was open to every kind of experience that came her way. She thought nothing of taking her son when he was 17 and going to Mexico, just the 2 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, good grief. That's she went to the Philippines with them, the same thing. Of course, she had family there, but still, that's a long trip. She had all these little sticky notes in her purse. She couldn't use a cell phone.
Just remember the open head center right there. I love that. I love that you're saying that about, you wish you knew. Well, we wish we knew. And I'm listening to this story, and you can just see it. All her friends were completely different because that they all saw her probably as completely different because she was who she needed to be in those pockets. And I think that as well, like if we knew a little bit of this when we were younger, we could have saved ourselves a lot of grief. And especially with these open centers where we could have just, embraced the journey of, I think that's the gift of human design for me. It's being able to embrace the journey that I love to explore life, opposed to 20-year-old Annie who felt like she had to stick to one thing, because that's how we're raised sometimes, aren't we? Well, you grow up, you go to university, you get a job, and you stay there until you can retire. It's like, that doesn't work for beings like me. That's fucking terrible. And it's just like, that's what makes us miserable. So I feel that when we're allowed to just go, oh, I'm going to shift gears and pivot all the time, we're so happy. We're so free. Nothing weighs us down.
Well, not to rain on your parade, but I did exactly what you didn't do. I did whatever I wanted. I wasn't any happier than you for following the rules. It's weird. Maybe it's, of course, I don't remember. What's your profile?
5-1.
5-1. Yeah, as a 4-6, I mean, I had those first 30 years of being a third line, bumping into all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. Nothing ever worked. But I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I mean, there were times when I lived in a car. One time I actually lived in a cupboard in a garage, up on a wall in the garage for a little while. I could care less when I was young. I mean, I did so many things. I just did whatever I wanted to do. And go to college. Yeah, right.
And look at all the wisdom that you've gathered from all of those years of experimenting.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. I mean, a lot of people go into college in their 20s, and I was reading, the Bhagavad Gita, and I was working with the I Ching, and I was reading books on Zen and macrobiotic diets, and this is whole world of
Yeah.
cool stuff. So I guess there's no cut and dry way to do it. That's why we're always talked about being unique. Of course, then he told us all that we had to obey certain rules.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's also, it's a beautiful thing. And you've sort of explained that as well through here, you get this information and it feels good in your body because it's like, oh, here I am.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
You've always known who you are, but it's just more of a little, this is you. It's okay to be you. Maybe that's what it is. It's like a self-acceptance piece. And then you can just get on with life and navigate it
mm-hmm.
how you want. That's, I think, the beauty of it.
For me, it was like being hugged and kissed. Somebody cares about you. Hug, kiss. Oh, thank God! Finally, oh, it's okay to be me.
Yeah.
Right? It's such a warm feeling, and I trust myself not to be a butthead. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people, I see them struggle with this deconditioning thing from the open centers. What do you feel about that?
I believe there's a lot of our past that we have to just give ourselves forgiveness for. And I think that's a huge part of the deconditioning process of just owning it and saying,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that was me mirroring or reflecting or trying to fit
Mm-hmm.
into places. And so
Mm-hmm.
a deconditioning experience for me personally is more about that, of just going, okay, this happened, but I know now and I can do better, or I can pause or not feel rushed. And I
Mm-hmm.
find that with people that I speak to, and even just in the work that I do, it's just like everybody just slow down, because we're in this world where everyone wants to be like everybody else. So that's just my personal view on it. The
Yeah,
one little bit.
I never went through any kind of human design deconditioning. I think I did all that when I was much younger.
Mm.
Um, I had some of the weirdest things happen to me when I think I was 19 years old. I was working at Western Behavioral Sciences Institute in La Jolla on this major project to determine the most effective deterrent to nuclear war. I had I didn't have any college under my belt, and the guy that ran the place said, "Well, you can be an intern here." Everybody in that place had a PhD except me. They were so nice to me. They let me take part in this cool stuff. But there's a psychologist in America whose name is, oh God, what's he called? I know him so well. I hate when this happens.
Oh, it's gone.
Hmm?
It's gone.
Anyway, he's really, oh, Carl Rogers, that's who it is. He's very famous. He started what's called the client-centered approach, the empathic approach, instead of the analytical approach. And he came out. He had been the mentor to the guy that let me be at this place. And the deal was, he brought his newest protege with him and said, anybody here that wants to can see this guy for free. Because, part of your training as a psychologist is you have to do so much time with trying to be an analyst for somebody or a therapist. So I jumped at the chance because I knew I was messed up. I was convinced of it. I was not like anybody else, not even close. I had, back then, the new age thing was just starting. And they were doing what were called marathon sessions, typically psychotherapy, 1 hour. This was an 8 hour nonstop, just the two of you in a room. We didn't even have chairs, just bare room. The only thing that was in there besides us was an ashtray because I smoked. And at 19, somebody asks you a question like, are you stressed out? No, of course not. I didn't know what the hell stressed out meant. I mean, it was just blue sounds. Didn't know. Or do you feel anxiety? No, I never felt anxiety before, never knowing that I was a teeming pot of that kind of stuff. What do you think about your mom? Oh, I hate my mom. I would tell him all this stuff. And after about 2 or 3 8-hour sessions, he said, I can't see you anymore. I don't think I can help you. Whoa. See, I knew I was messed up, right? But I didn't think it was.
You didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, right. But oddly enough, when I drove away, I didn't feel that bad. I was like, well, I knew I was messed up, so okay, big deal. I'm more messed up than I thought, that it's not that bad. I mean, I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
It gives you a certain freedom,
Yeah.
where, okay, if the best of the best can't help me, then I don't have to be bothered, right?
Yeah.
Until I wanted to be. And then once I wanted to be, I was able to, but I could do it on my terms instead of on somebody else's, No matter how well-intentioned people are, they want you to do it all on their terms. And I'm the same way when I teach, I had a student that wanted to tell me how to teach her. Oh, well, okay, but boy, are you missing out.
And talk to us about this, like how you developed this teaching model through mentorship, because that's fascinating. How does that work when people apply to work with you? How does that look in your practice?
Well, I have a call with them. I say it's a 30-minute call, but it almost always goes at least an hour, because I do with him what I'm doing with you. I talk. I'm myself. This is the client-centered approach to psychotherapy. You're a person, I'm a person. Let's just be together. And I want them to experience me, because I'm not everybody's cup of tea. A lot of people come in and they're quad right. A lot of people come in and they're quad left. I'm half and half. So who knows what's going to happen there? And I jump around a lot. And I didn't know for a long time why I did that, but when I got into the arrows, variables, I realized, well, I'm right brain and left mind. The right brain is that's the psychedelic brain. That's the brain that is part of it all, part of the whole. Goes here and there. It's not structured. Whereas the mind left, that's very structured. I made my living as a computer programmer for years, pure logic all day long. And you can learn from both of them, but it's when you can have the freedom to have both experiences at the relatively same time that you make these synapses in your mind, these little, what do you call them? They get turned on.
Yeah.
We call them in human design, they call it a hub. A center, but in neural anatomy, they call it a hub. And, all this stuff gets connected. And I teach people the way I do, because I don't want them to parrot me.
Yeah.
I don't want them to parrot Rob. I want them to make their own neural connections based on their past, not mine, based on their dreams, not mine. Yeah. And so I give them all these little touchstones that they can integrate however, they're happy integrating it. Then they get to be who they are, instead of, some sort of wannabe Kip or wannabe Raw or something like that. Because it's much more fun to be yourself.
Yeah. Sounds like critical thinking 101 right there. Bring that back into the schools, please.
I don't think they teach kids critical thinking anymore.
No, that's what I was saying. Can we please bring that back? So it sounds like you're teaching that too.
Yes. I was so lucky. My dad taught me how to play chess when I was about 6. And boy, you have to be strategic if you want to win a chess game against a good player. And he was a good player. So I lost every game I ever played him for 8 years. he didn't cut me any slack at all. He just beat me and beat me and beat me and beat me. And I didn't care.
I'm so right-brained. I can't even play chess.
Yeah?
Nah. I get so bored so fast. It's like, what are we doing again? Off I go. I've tried, but I'm just not that good because I don't have that strategic mind.
Yeah, I've
That's
got
okay.
it, but I've got both of them, and I personally prefer now where I'm at in life now. I prefer the right thing. I like that. It's it feels better.
Yeah.
You really got to be like this
Yeah.
to be really strategic and structured. You got to be uptight.
Yeah.
And it's there's a lovely book. I bet you'd love it too. It's this woman. She taught brain science, neurological science of the brain at Harvard. So she's no slouch. A PhD in the field. She's teaching at Harvard. You got to be in the top 2 or 3%, I think, to do that. Well, she woke up one morning and was getting up and getting dressed and getting ready to go to work, and she couldn't get anything. It was all very amorphous to her, and she didn't know. She couldn't remember how to do this, and she couldn't remember how to do that. And she was getting a little bit freaked out, but she'd only get so freaked out, and then her attention would kind of go, "Oh my God, look, I'm at one with the universe. Oh, it's all just one. This is amazing." And then she finally realized she needed to get help. She knew something was really wrong. And she finally figured out what it was. She was having a stroke, and the left side of her brain was drowning in blood. The left side of the brain is all the strategic stuff. This is, whereas the right side is non-strategic. It's literally the right side. And she couldn't figure out how to use the telephone. I mean, she was really lost in it. But she didn't care. Well, somebody stopped by, fortunately, because they were trying to figure out why she hadn't come into work and she wasn't answering her phone. So somebody came and checked. And it took her years to recover from that. I mean, she had lost quite a bit of her brain had died. And she had to do all this big rewiring program. But she wrote a book called My Stroke of Insight, where she talks about this left brain, right brain, the two hemispheres of the brain, and how, when you look at the human design chart, you probably never noticed, but 6447 is in the right eye, and then it crosses over and goes down, on the other side, on the left side. The right brain is in charge of the left side of your body, and the left side of your left brain is in charge of the right side of your body. And you can see that when you look at the flow in the chart, that's exactly what's happening. I mean, Ra wasn't just making this stuff up. He knew about this. It's been pretty well known for a long time. And she came out with a second book, Right Brain, Left Brain, I think she called it. And she really gets into it. Her name is, kids. Hold on a second. It's just faster to do this. Oh, right. I'm sorry, it's not right brain, left brain. It's called whole brain, of course.
Whole brain
living. Whole Brain Living, WH. And it's by Jill Bolt Taylor, Bolt with an E at the end.
Oh, right.
And, it's really, she really got into it. I mean, she's a scientist, she does the research, and she's got all this fancy equipment available to her, and, unlimited budget for experimenting and so on. But it's really fascinating. And, again, you can say, well, this is where Ra came up with that right-left arrow thing, because this is part of our physiology. Environment, that's just basically the basic environments that the human race has had to migrate through for the last several millions of years. Catastrophe would happen and you'd have to get out of the jungle, and we kept moving around to, you'd live on the shore of a lake or whatever. All of that stuff is mostly about the evolution, just the evolutionary story of man. And that's why we've got those genes that we have, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is you don't have to do it.
You just have to be it.
Yeah, right.
You just,
Yeah, you don't even have to do that. It is, you are being it, you
yeah,
know? And
yeah,
yeah, once you get that, man, I tell you, life is sweet.
yeah,
No, no more pressure,
yeah.
no more judgment, nothing. You just, yeah,
You're just living your design because it always works out one way or another.
yeah, yeah. It's really a
There's a
very
freedom
happy
in that.
place
And
to
you know
be.
what? Do you think that that also comes with age? Do you think that the
Yes.
acceptance of self also comes with age?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've been around for a long time. And
Just a couple more years than me. No.
I wish. No, it's, you go through phases. I mean, when you're a kid, you got to do all your exploration and figuring things out and getting in all kinds of, pickles and out of them. And, that's what it's all about. Hopefully you don't die doing it. And most of us don't. And typically the next 30 years, well, that's when you get married and you have kids and you raise a family and you have some kind of way of making money, whether you call it a career or a job or, whatever, but you get pretty caught up in that whole middle class trip. And well, you should. And then, what was it? When Chetan did my reading, I was 54. So I had come down off the roof and he said, well, you've been kind of, not really involved too much with who you actually are for the last several years, but the game is afoot again.
I love that.
Or
I love
Agatha Christie, the game is afoot. Yeah, and I mean, I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm raising my kids right. There's so many things I don't have to worry about. It's just not proper to me. Now my kid's he's 27 years old. Yeah, he's got some crap going on. It's not my problem. I raised him right. He can
yeah.
deal with it or not. I don't know. But oh man, that was hard to disengage there. Very hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it leaves you. We put so much on ourselves, and rightly so. I don't mean to say that we shouldn't. We really should. We have obligations and responsibilities, but it's a lot easier to be loose when you're old. you know,
You stop
it's a lot
caring.
easier.
You do stop caring a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And what's so funny is like all the things that I spent all my summers with my grandparents. They're friends, and they were all old people. So my grandparents had me for the first 3 years of my life, and then from age 7 to 14, they had me every summer in a little tiny town, population 90. I knew everybody in that town, and they were almost all old people. And so I would go and I would play canasta. I play card games with my grandmother and her friends, right?
Yep.
I'm sitting around the table with a bunch of old ladies gossiping and stuff. And it's like, they would say things about the younger generation. It's so funny because now I totally I understand everything they said. Oh, you young people, they just don't listen, Well, of course not. They don't want to listen to you. They don't listen to, they're too busy. They don't have time to listen. And, I have more time for that now. It's easier. I like to listen to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have, we've been going for a while, so we might wrap up, but do you have any words of wisdom for people out there who are just starting in this journey of discovering human design, in this space? Do you have anything you'd like to share? He sticks his tongue
No,
out for those listening.
the thing is, words of wisdom. Oh, man. I think I'm pretty smart, but I don't know. Wise. I mean, it's all about experience. I've said this in other podcasts. You cannot learn to ride a bike by reading a book. No matter how hard you study human design, it's for the most part, it's meaningless. Yeah. It's just a structure, just a framework, and don't take it so seriously. Yeah. One of my students, I probably said this on a podcast, but she called me up one day and she was very, very upset because she had joined a Facebook group for projectors. And she'd gotten to kind of know the guy that was running it. And so they would talk outside of the Facebook group. And she called him up one day and they were chatting. She said, "Oh, yes." She said, "I invited some of my friends over for lunch tomorrow." He goes, "You can't do that. You can't invite people." And she freaked out, the poor thing. Of course she freaked out. Who would say that? And she called me up in tears. I said, "What should I do?" "I don't know what you should do, but if it were me that he treated that way, I'd just get a new friend, because who needs that crap?" You know, be thoughtful.
Yeah.
Think about it. Don't don't just buy into it. There aren't any projector police. You know, manifestors fail. These are strategies that have, again, proven effective in terms of evolution. To wait. Well, anybody can see that waiting is not too bad a thing to do. You got to wait with your hunting, so if you're hunting from ambush. So, but we take it so seriously.
Yeah.
So that would probably be my word of wisdom.
There you go.
Call it wise or not, but yeah.
I've got to change my wording there. You called me out on that, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Got to change that to I don't know, something. I'll think of something witty.
There you go.
Thank you so much for taking time to have a chat with me and just sit here. And it's just been wonderful to get to know you a little more.
Yeah, I've enjoyed getting to know you too, because I like relationship. I like that. And I don't like intellectual relationship. This is boring. But talking to somebody as a person, what were you like as a kid? What was your life like? What did you do? And getting to actually know a person, that's really fun for me. And you've been so forthcoming, and so comfortable sharing yourself. I really appreciate that a lot. So thank you for having me on here to sit and talk with you. I mean, you managed to get me comfortable enough that I could turn on my camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm just looking at you. You're lovely to look at, Very pretty face. So
you are too
thanks
kind.
So much, Annie.
Thank you, sir. You have a wonderful evening. And
okay, I shall. And you have a wonderful day.
I will. Take care.
It's so weird. You're in my future.
I know. It's the only thing we're ahead in is the future. Is time. Yeah. As I joke to people, Australia, the only thing we're ahead in is time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.